Hello everyone. You're about to hear a fast recap of the film, Prisoner of War. Enjoy watching. Japan 1950. Former RAF pilot James Wright entered Dazo and approached Sensei. The man knew his father. He had met him in a prisoner of war camp. The Japanese didn't like this foreigner, so he ordered his students to attack Wright. However, the powerful fighter easily dispersed the karatekas. Sensei decided it was time to stop the carnage. Stop. Why did you come here? We are transported to 1942 to the Philippine island of Bataan. During an air battle, Wright's plane was shot down. The pilot managed to eject. In the morning, a detachment of Japanese soldiers went to search for him. Wright buried his comrades and hid behind a tree with a knife. The Briton brutally killed 2 soldiers and fled into the depths of the forest. However, he was soon surrounded and forced to throw away his weapon. The plump commander was about to execute Wright on the spot but quickly changed his mind and ordered the prisoner taken to the camp. This camp was run by Lieutenant Colonel Ida, the priest sensei from the dojo. The commander ordered the pilot beheaded, and he was taken back into the forest. The 2 guards stepped aside, leaving Wright alone with the chubby man. The Brit wasn't ready to die just yet, so he freed himself and slaughtered each of the guards. One by one. Wright went on the run again, but soon found himself trapped, suspended above the ground. What a groundhog day, the soldier thought, as he was brought back to the commander. This time the prisoner was much more intriguing. Having single-handedly slaughtered the entire squad, the Brit wouldn't die so easily now, master. I'll kill him now. Tomorrow he will fight. The camp will see his shame, and he will die. Wright was pushed into the barracks. That evening the remaining prisoners returned. He'll be staying with a bearded man, a Greek and an American named Villanueva. The new guy was told that the weakest of them was sending them to another camp 60 miles away. He'd rather die than go on this death march. The morning began with battle cries, and he's a karate fanatic, so he makes his soldiers swing their arms every day. Legs. After training, Wright was forced to kneel. He was ready to lose his head, but instead the big guy's arms were freed. More than killing Gaijin, I'd enjoy fighting for survival. His best fighter emerged from the tent, tasked with punishing 3 errant Filipinos. The first decided to kill himself on his fist. The beast kicked him and began taunting the other opponents. They were all quickly knocked out. The greyhound British man was supposed to be next. The champion realized he was in deep trouble. Wright clenched his fist and brought it down on the fighter's like head. An anvil. The beast died on the spot. Ida took fright and hid in a tent. This prisoner is special. He knows a forbidden technique and can kill a man with 1 blow. Wright met Captain Collins. The prisoners celebrated their victory with moonshine. The newcomer told his comrades that he learned to fight in Hong Kong, Thailand, and even Japan, and she too was curious about where he came from. Quote, "You trained in Japan. I've trained in many places. Your technique is the most forbidden." Quote. Ida cut Wright's cheek, took away his father's British cross, and promised that tomorrow he would definitely die. In the morning, Super Fighter was brought into the arena. He would fight against 3 of Ida's best students at once. But it turned out that Wright didn't seem to notice them. The Briton beat his opponents until they were no longer able to stand on their feet. He could have strangled the last one, but he didn't. Today, I touched bow to the new champion and hid in the tent. Although Wright didn't kill anyone, Itachi pronounced the death sentence on the losers. For him, the prisoners are slowly planning an escape. First, they need to get a radio and tell their friends where they are. To force the guard down from the tower, the prisoners started a brawl. The most inconspicuous meat guy, Wright, climbed up the tower. He stole the radio and managed to escape just as the Japanese opened fire and dispersed the crowd. But then Wright caught the nurse's eye. The ugly soldier started pestering her and even slapped her. Teresa wants to get out of here as much as the rest. The next morning, Itacho started pointing fingers at all the prisoners and settled on one Filipino. Supposedly he left the camp that night. The guy said it wasn't him, but the bald one. Magnanimous idol should cut off both their heads. Jonesy knows how the two got out of the camp and told Wright about it. That night, he removed the rotten boards from the barracks and crawled out. The Brit crept from one shelter to another until he emerged from the camp and ran into the forest. The disappearance was discovered before dawn, but for some reason, the young soldier didn't raise the alarm. Reed hoped to contact the Allies on the radio, but instead of English, he heard encrypted communications in Navajo, which meant that the Americans were nearby. Later, Wright found a glider in the bushes and told his comrades about it. If an airplane flew overhead, he could tow the glider. It was a risk. There was another option. Stay with Ida, then we'd be screwed. Ida again ordered the Brit to be brought to him and began questioning him about Nava. Maybe Wright could translate it. No one understands Nava except Nava. That's the point. Anyway, Wright sent the commander again, and he was very angry. Quote, "Master, you're bleeding, but Wright isn't." Quote. I told punished the Briton for his impudence and ordered to be beaten with sticks. Quote, "Bite. It'll make it easier." Quote. They surrounded the POW from all sides and began pounding his body with all their might. Each ring of the bell was accompanied by more blows with the sticks. When the prisoner of war fell to his knees, his hands were untied, but the execution didn't end there. Once he even got hit in the face. Wright certainly wouldn't tolerate that. He began to defend himself and jump around the arena as if nothing had happened. The Briton had defeated all his executioners and even now refused to kill them. Captain Endon knocked out the horsemen, and Otalo became so arrogant that he personally executed half a dozen prisoners. Wright woke up 2 days later in a hospital tent. Usually only wounded Japanese are sent here, but Ida ordered that the Briton be patched up as well. The next time Wright woke up, he heard gunshots. Ida reported that a public execution was taking place. Outside today you rest. But what about tomorrow? Tomorrow I die. Yes, I know. Quote. Wright declared that he would rather have all his fighters gone. Lose suddenly. A series of explosions rang out. The Americans would arrive soon. However, if that happened, it would be like committing suicide. All his soldiers and, of course, the prisoners would be sent to the next world. That night Wright went into the jungle, not alone but with Gabriel. However, he caught the eye of one of the guards. Wright knocked him out. Gabriel slit his throat, but they spared the young soldier. He was the only one who treated them well. The young men raised the alarm only after the prisoners returned to the barracks. Captain Collins was blamed for yesterday's attack on the guard. I know he wasn't alone. It was me. Wright claimed he was walking around the camp yesterday, but the captain was caught red-handed. An exhausted prisoner was dumped next to Wright. Ida demanded to demonstrate a forbidden move on him, kill the poor guy with one blow. The man refused, and so the Filipino was simply shot. Today Collins will have to fight for his life. This brute has his own fighting style. He attacks his opponents just as well as Wright. He even rips out the throat of one of them. Given Collins his obvious advantage, the fight was stopped. All the prisoners were herded back into the barracks. That evening, Wright challenged Ida to a one-on-one fight, and the Japanese agreed. Quote, "Hold him. Your training hasn't met my expectations." Quote. That's how Ida won and ordered the Briton taken away. Wright suggested his comrades escape today. True, they'll only have one chance to send a message. As soon as we send it, they'll know we have the radio and our location. Another night, another foray into the jungle. Together with Gabriel, they reported the glider to the Americans. Bright light, bright light. An eagle in the jungle without an engine. When the two returned to the barracks, all the bunks were empty at that very moment. The Japanese burst in and knocked out the escapees. When they came to, the camp was already under heavy Allied bombardment. Teresa freed the prisoners. Now they needed to get the radio and get the people out. The captured Filipinos also tried to escape, but the Japanese killed them all. Teresa and her friend pretended to be wounded and asked a soldier for help. When he ran up, the girls brutally stabbed him to death. The escapees climbed the tower. Meanwhile, the Japanese executed one group of POWs after another. While Gabriel was calling for help, Wright opened fire on the POWs. The prisoners took advantage of the confusion and scattered. Burrito went berserk and began slaughtering the Japanese. One by one. Captain Enda dealt Gabriel a hearty beating and was about to cut him down, but Captain Collins came to his rescue. Enda tackled the boar as well, but he wasn't heavy enough to break his arm. Collins simply threw the karateka back and then began beating him with one hand. Alas, reinforcements arrived, and Collins was shot. Wright realized someone was missing from this celebration of life and ran into Ida's tent. The samurai challenged the Briton to a sword fight, but when the enemy was left without swords, Ida went for his pistol. However, Wright threw it out into the street and was about to beat the lieutenant colonel to death, but Gabriel distracted him. The two of them were about to escape into the jungle when Ender opened fire on them, but the commander forbade him to kill the Briton. The surviving prisoners signaled the pilot and pulled the rope attached to the glider. The escapees settled into their seats awaiting rescue. But then soldiers began to surround them from all sides, and the fighter pilot mowed them all down. Among the dead was the young Japanese. Now no one would stop him from retrieving the glider. The American pilot had handled the task superbly. And those who didn't manage to escape set off on a death march. Where is he? My father died last year, Mr. Wright. Sensei asked me to show him that same forbidden move and challenge the Briton to a fight. Wright didn't refuse and kicked the Japanese like a son. The hapless fighter insisted that his opponent finish him off with one punch, but Wright stopped his fist 5 centimeters from his face. Before saying goodbye, the Japanese returned Wright's British cross to his father. My father said that one day the white man would come for this. James Wright bowed and left Tahoe.